the rep of the Vice Chancellor, Provost, faculty members, our students, and other invited guests, it's an great opportunity to be here. But I like the fact that I'm being described as the deputy minister, but to me, what I know and do is not because I'm a deputy minister. I have background in education, taught for some time, developed schools for some time, led organizations for some time. So everything I like to do is about education, and I see politics as an opportunity to transform education. And because that is what really influenced my decision to come into politics. I always wanted to be a politician, not because I wanted to be a politician, but because I felt strongly that if we do not transform our education system, the transformation of our nation will elude us. And invariably, if you happen to be the academician, or even my colleague who just spoke, the political establishment may not take heed to what you say much. So I wanted to be part of the establishment so that I'll be close to the source of power, and I'll be able to talk about what we need to transform ourselves as a nation. And that is why I love politics, because it gives me something that is very different and unique. So young men and women, if you think in politics, think about career first, and walk into politics, know that you have something to contribute to your country. And not see politics as an end in itself, but as a means to an end. That end of socio-economic transformation of Ghana is the reason why, if you happen to be sitting here, you should be thinking about politics. It's not because of power. It's not because you get a Land Cruiser. It's not because people worship you. That, to me, doesn't make politics enjoyable. I am the member of parliament for Bosomtwe. And one of the things I love, I think somebody's from Bosomtwe here. I love the fact that I'm making a difference in the life of my constituents. I'm building a STEM academy, a very innovative school that will turn out STEM graduates. My goal is to be able to produce 100 medical doctors and 100 engineers from Bosomtwe within the next 10 years. And consequently, I had to build a school that will produce them. And I'm working on it. I could have just got some rectangular shaped school for them, and they would still have applauded me. But I felt strongly that if the children can become the future leaders of this nation, they need to learn in different environments, and that is what influenced my thought in terms of building a 21st century school environment that if you were blindfolded and dropped there, when it's done, you will not think you are in Ghana. And that is what excites me, that we can do something better for the people of Ghana. Let me tell you this. When you look at the Human Capital Index of Ghana, in 2019 by the World Bank essentially looks at the contribution of education and health towards the human capacity of any nation, and Ghana's score is 44 or 0.44. What it means is this: within the next 18 years, if nothing changes, 56% of our human capacity will be wasted, because our human capital index is 44. That then raises a sense of urgency. Do we prevail over this and make sure we can overcome this and create a great nation? Because after all, we are in a knowledge economy. In a knowledge economy, education is not just a piece of the puzzle, it is the whole puzzle. If you don't transform your education system, you can't transform your nation. How come in 60 years ago, about 60 years ago, South Korea, we had a higher per capita income than them. Our per capita income was $189, Ghana. South Korea was $158. How did they become better than us? They knew they did not have the resources, therefore they were going to put everything into education. And that's what they did. That's what they did. Their human capital index is 0.84. Their gross tertiary enrollment ratio is 96.3. That is if you take the youth between the ages of 18 to 23. Out of every 100, 93.6 in some kind of tertiary education in South Korea. In Ghana, it is 16.19. So if we don't transform ourselves, if we don't see the education as the most important difference maker, there's something that the thing that makes the difference between country A and B, we are not going to transform ourselves. But sometimes, as Ghanaians, we find ourselves trapped in what I call the African mediocrity trap. We find ourselves stuck in there. Because when you talk about a 16.1 now, somebody will just counter and say the average for Africa is 7%, so we are doing better. Recently, I landed at a domestic airport, Kotoka International Airport, and there were some guys behind me who were laughing and giggling that Ghana's domestic airport is more beautiful than that of Niger. And they were so happy. But I was saying to myself, why are you not comparing your international airport to that of Dubai? Are they better than you? Because we find ourselves boxed into this syndrome that we are better than others. So many are better than us. And that is why when we talk about free senior high school and improving access in secondary, you see, I take it like religion because I, as somebody standing for a deputy minister, I almost didn't go to high school because my dad could not get 40 cedis to pay my deposit. It took divine intervention for me to have gone to senior high school. Now, so it's not, if I had not gone, how would I have gotten the opportunity to go to the US and build schools for them, come back and become a deputy minister? We have human potential capital locked up in our various villages and zongos and inner cities. And unless you unleash the power, that potential that is bottled up in there, you cannot transform this nation. Because it's going to be tapping from the few who were fortunate to have had education. But what about those talents that are locked up in there? So when you open the floodgates of education through free senior high school, now you're bringing up a lot of people who can then access tertiary education. But you know, tertiary education for its own sake is also not going to give you what you need. You see, there's a story of when I was in senior high school and I was running for SP, and the election was tough. There were 4 of us. There's a friend of mine whose bed was next to me, and we were running against each other. So I had prepared my speech, and I went to deliver the speech to do the campaign. And then he came before me. By the time I realized he was reading my script. So my brother has read part of my script. I don't know if you took that with. He was reading my script, and I said to myself, "This is Politics 101. Welcome to politics." Then I have to deliver an extempore speech, and I won the election. By the way, I went to Jase Primary Senior High School. So all that I'm saying is this. I associate with my friend here in terms of some of the things that he said. But I want you to know that a friend said something. They went to a meeting, and a professor said something which I've quoted, that universities don't do very well with the students because garbage in, garbage out. And what I told the guy after he told me was that universities should see themselves as recycling plants. Yes. When garbage comes in, it has to come out a refined product. And the reason why I say that is that in other jurisdictions, yes, you'll be accepted to the university, but you are not going to take the same courses as your friends in the same program. So all of us may be doing sociology, but may be asked to do writing because I can't write well. And therefore, the courses I would do the first 2 years may be very different from my friend who is also in sociology. So in a way, the course is customized for us so that they can bring the best out of us. But if because all of us got accepted, we are all doing sociology and we are all taking the same courses, and I can't write, I'm going to live here and I'm not writing. And who will hire me? And then there are things that we box ourselves into. Because I know that if UCC, I don't know if you offer a course in software engineering as a master's degree, I'm sure if you do, your prerequisite may be a bachelor's degree in computer science. But if you were to go to other places, they wouldn't bother. If you did sociology, you should be the best software engineer because you understand people. If you did anthropology, it's even better. Many years ago, Wall Street was hiring people who did anthropology instead of economics because they felt strongly that anthropologists understand the customers that they were catering to. So humanities are very important in as much as we are shifting into STEM. And we are looking at all the other things that are going on. So my topic was how do universities help education reform and the implementation and all those things. First of all, I'll say let's heal ourselves as a university. Heal yourself. The moment the universities are able to have some good quality assurance programs that enable them to graduate the top performing students, they are going to give us graduates who are going to teach our children to excel. But I also know that you have accreditation regimes, you have regulatory framework by politicians and everyone that sometimes ties your hands a bit. So I'm willing to cut you some slack. Because, for example, many years ago, they brought about this agric pathway in high school, visual pathway, which to me, if you compare it against international best practices, it wasn't the way to go. Because most universities were saying that give me somebody who did biology and chemistry and physics and I'll make him an agriculturalist. I'll make him an agricultural scientist. But we, Ministry of Education, those days decided that, oh no, this is what we want. And then we said, take it or leave it. So when we stay under that framework, we also tie in the hands of the university. We need to be able to come to a point where, when it comes to curricular reform, universities and industry should be front and center. Many years ago, a report was produced in the US called A Nation at Risk. They saw that their very nation was at risk because the education system was not doing well. That was a call and a cry for change. That brought about great change in America. Everything was on the table, up to the point that private individuals were asked to participate in the public education space because they felt strongly that their country must not fail. So we need to make sure that we don't tie your hands and we give you the opportunity to bring out the best in our students, but not forgetting that there will be accountability. And that if you don't do well, in my personal opinion, there should be some rankings. So that if your students don't get jobs 6 years after they graduate, somehow it should be used in ranking and it should go against you. And I tell you this, you see, wherever you are not being evaluated for, you cannot be good at. You cannot be good at it. If universities in Ghana were ranked based on how fast their graduates get jobs, there will be job fairs almost every month at this university. There will be counselors who will be counseling the students about their career. And by the way, we as universities probably will then stop pushing students into courses that they did not plan to be in. Some students get frustrated because there are courses that they did not plan and they wanted to be in the university. So when you told them that they have to do sanitation education is not taught in our schools. But they came to you and said sanitation education and they didn't want to go home, so they said, I will take sanitation education. When they graduate, where do they get jobs? I have students coming to my office all the time and say, what did you do? Sanitation education. And I say, sanitation education? We don't teach sanitation in high school. So how are you going to be able to get a job in sanitation education? So bottom line is this. I think we all have work to do. Industry have a great task ahead of them. Somehow, industry have also ceded the space of education to us and to university, especially to the Ministry of Education. Industry should be able to wake up and say, you know what, we have a problem, and our problem is that your graduates are not meeting our needs, and therefore let's talk. I think all of us as stakeholders need to wake up. As people say, wake up and smell the coffee. Because things are not going the way it should. But all of us need to come together. Universities must also think creatively and also begin to look at things have to change. I'll use an example of software engineering master's degree, and I'm sure if you do it here, you will not allow somebody who did sociology to do it. I hear you call skirt and blouse or something. that if you did not do your bachelor's degree in something and you do it at the master's, you may not even be allowed to come and teach here. In other jurisdictions, there's flexibility. My nephew, who did sociology bachelor's degree, is now a medical doctor. He just had to take 1 year crash course for medical school entrance. And when we went for interview into medical school, they said they would rather have him because he will understand his patients. Come to University of Cape Town and tell them this sociology and want to be a medical. So we also have things that we have done, like I always say this. We have students who do visual arts in high school, and they dare not tell themselves they are going to do engineering. I understand. You may say that they don't have a background in physics and they didn't do elective mathematics, but why can't you give them a 1 year access program to prove to you that they can master physics and they can master elective mathematics, and therefore they deserve a chance in doing engineering? I went to a university that had done a career fair for high school, actually a science fair. And there was a student who had designed a robot. And it was very intricately done, and he gave me some very good explanation. But I was just curious. I asked him, what are you doing in high school? He said, I'm doing visual arts. I was with the dean of the College of Engineering at that university, and I asked the dean, you want to tell me that this boy would never be engineer in Ghana? I always tell the story of Kojo Mensah, who slept and had a dream. And Kojo Mensah was a visual arts student. And God was telling Kojo Mensah that, Kojo, you're going to be the best engineer in the world. And he said, God, you don't know me, I did visual arts. But Kojo Mensah, if he were to go to America, will come back and become the best engineer, because they will give him the opportunity. So I'm saying that we have to also look at flexibility. But when it comes to education reform, universities can play a critical role, helping with curriculum development, and by the way, asserting yourself to say that you cannot just design the curriculum and leave me out and ask me to accept the student. Universities should assert themselves in that area. And you can also play a very proactive role in curriculum development and making an impact on education in your communities. You have inner cities close by, rural communities close by. Universities should assert themselves and play a role in the life of those students who are locked up in those communities where there's no opportunity for them. The opportunity is here. And sometimes it's just going to take a mindset change. I visited a school in Kumasi Girls, and I walked into one of the classrooms, and 50 girls taking a class in physics. I was super excited. In my mind, at minimum, there will be 25 engineers coming out of this class. I was just curious. I asked the girls, how many of you want to be engineers? No hand went up. That is when I saw I had an opportunity. I didn't have a problem. So I brought those girls to Accra, took them to Academic City College. They have a beautiful engineering laboratory. They did a tour there, look at the 3D printers and all those things. And now those girls are saying they want to be engineers because they were exposed to it. So we have some role to play in this. Before the kids hit the universities, at minimum, there should be some counseling and orientation at the high schools to expose them to the careers that are available. And by the way, universities should also be reaching out to high schools and say, hey, we have field trip days. You can bring your students to the university to just come and see the university. Do you know how many students will go back to their schools and work so hard if they visited Cape Verde? If they came to UCC and said, wow, that's beautiful. One day I want to go there, and one day they will go there. So if the universities develop effective counseling programs, outreach, targeting schools, you're going to get a mindset change. By the time they get you, there will be children who wanted to be here and children who wanted to sit in your seats. And I'll tell you one thing, universities as role, as instruments for change is now documented. In the 1980s, the World Bank and other organizations said, no, universities, we don't have to support you with our funds because you don't play a critical role. Let's support the basic schools. And that's what they told us as developing countries. When they told us that, we bought it and we accepted it. It didn't help us. When we were doing that, typhoid was being invented in Malaysia by a university. Typhoid was being invented by a university in Malaysia. At that time, Embraer aircraft was being invented in Brazil by the university. When you take our African World Airlines, right? Their aircrafts were built by a university. And by the way, in Palestine, of all places, their university team up with their education, like our GES, and they changed the way teachers were trained, and Palestine has one of the best basic education programs now. So it's documented that universities have a role to play in the socio-economic transformation of the countries that they are located in, and I believe that once you assert yourselves and begin to see your role in the socio-economic transformation of Ghana, Ghana will be a different place. I believe in Ghana, and I believe that without education, though, it's going to be a difficult path. So I don't believe in reform, I believe in transformation. If we don't transform, then we will not be able to do what the Brookings institutions have said when they did a study recently. See, Brookings institution says something that is going to take 120 years for our school system to catch up with that of the West. But they also said that countries that will be able to catch up are those that will leapfrog. So when it comes to access, you leapfrog and say that I can enroll more students even though I have few facilities, and that is double track. And you can also say to yourself, I don't have science labs, but I can teach students science. That is where you use virtual lab. And then you're able to get the students to be able to do something that normally they will not be able to do. And then you say to yourself, yes, I don't have all the teachers, and I may lack certain amenities, but I'm going to improve the way I teach and learn. I'm going to do more collaborative teaching using the new Bloom's taxonomy and the web depth of knowledge, and through that I'll be able to train children to become critical thinkers. That is how we leapfrog, and that is how we change Ghana. Thank you.